All right, it is one of my favorite times of year. It is new planner season, and today we are setting up my 2024 bullet journal. I'm using a Leuchtturm Bujo. It's A5 size, 120 GSM paper, and I got it engraved with my name and the dates on it. And one of my goals for the year is actually to really lean into different spreads each month and really stuff my Bujo. So I'm hoping to fill 2 journals this year. I actually counted out how many weeklies I need from January to June and what my initial setup would be, and I'm pretty confident that this journal will only fit 6 months. So to start with, we have my cover page, and as you can see, I'm just using this really pretty kind of like white and gold flecked paper. And gold is actually something that you will see recurring a lot throughout this setup. It kind of started because I found this paper that I really liked, and then it just ended up being kind of repeated throughout, and it made sense to go with it. And I end up really actually loving my setups this year. So I essentially just glued that paper in, and I am kicking myself because I completely forgot to erase that 2024 note that I left for myself at the top of the page, so you can kind of see it through initially. And I tried lifting the paper back up and it wouldn't come off, but by the time I came around to gluing these kind of gold cardstock letters into the into the beginning of my journal, it was okay because you could barely even see it, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. And since one of my goals for 2024 is to give up perfectionism a little bit, I think it's only fitting that on page 1 of my bullet journal, you can kind of vaguely see, if you look really closely, cover page underneath there, but that's okay. So after that, I have my pocket pages. So I have used bullet journals for the past 6 to 7 years, and every year I tell myself that I'm going to decorate it and do all the things, but I'm also always super intimidated by the fact that I can't draw. And last year I added a pocket for the first time into my bullet journal, and I actually ended up really loving it. It ended up being a little bit too small. Like I just kind of just taped a piece of cardstock onto one of the pages of the book, and then through looking at other people's videos and things like that, I saw how they made these pockets in their journal, and I actually decided to do 2. So I have kind of like 2 little middle sheets and then the pocket on either side of it. And I really am planning to just use fit a variety of different things in that pocket. So anything from like my key pages or a grid spacing guide. I have a compile page that I put in there as well for book ratings. Just anything that I use a lot in setups that would be helpful if I could pull it out and look at, I keep in my pocket. And that paper that I'm using there is actually Chiogami paper. I found it at a local stationery store. They sell like all the paper. It's actually called The Paper Place, and I absolutely love it. It's this really strong, beautiful, but versatile paper that's super soft to the touch, and all those colors are actually layered onto like a base sheet to create these beautiful works of art. So my paper that I picked, the black with the gold swan is on it, actually only uses 2 colors, black and gold, but some of them have like flowers on them, and they actually use up to 6 colors added on layer by layer onto this sheet of paper to create these beautiful works of art. So I'm really loving it, and you see that paper kind of repeated throughout as well. And like I said, I used to be intimidated by everyone with their beautiful bullet journals because I can't draw to save my life. But I kind of decided to really lean into and tapping into my creativity using stickers and stamps and washi and different types of paper in this spread, as well as throughout the journal in the year, because creativity comes in all different shapes and forms, and I am creative. So here I'm just setting up my themes for 2024 page. this is different than my goals, and I realize that they could kind of be mixed up, but it's just things that I want to keep at the forefront of my mind, or things that I want to embody through 2024. So, for example, some of them is just being more vocal about the things that I'm working on, or embracing creativity, like I said earlier. And I really just kind of planned that out as a cute little crossword thing. So I actually went online and used one of those crossword creator things to plot in all the words or themes for the year that I wanted to do. And it gave me, I ended up picking this kind of layout for it. And then I end up putting the clues for what it is, or like where those words fall. So, you know, one of them, I literally just have like embrace blank, and the answer for it is creativity. Or I also have hard launch is one of them, and really it's about being vocal about the things that I'm working on. I am someone who tends to be very quiet and not tell my friends or family about things that I am doing or putting out into the world, and or really just being my own cheerleader. So really throughout 2024, really making sure that I actually vocalize those things to people and let them know that like this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm working on, because for the most part people are very supportive of the things that you do. And then also fairly new to me this year in my bujo is these stamps. So I actually picked them up in the morning and was using them later that day in my bullet journal setup. It's something that I've been seeing a lot, and I just kind of like the kind of typewriter or kind of imperfect perfect theme that they kind of help embody in the journal. I think it's really cute, and I'm loving them so far. Definitely a bit of a learning curve with figuring out how exactly to like write those things in, but yeah, I am loving it so far. So next I have my future log page, which if you've done a bullet journal before, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the same as in every other one. And essentially I just was creating a place to hold events that were kind of recurring. So like birthdays or holidays or anything that I know about well in advance, that like key dates well in advance that I would want to refer back to or know when I am making my monthly spreads. So for example, last year I included my cousin's wedding on it when we got the RSVP, so that when I was making my October spread, I could refer back to my future log and know that I needed to add it in. So to create the header, I basically just used the same paper that I used at the beginning of the journal for my 2024 numbers, and just printed out future log on it, just using my home printer. I really did debate between using stamps for these or using like hand lettering it, and I ended up settling on the printer paper because later on in the bullet journal, you'll see when I bring back out that specialty paper, that Chiogami paper, I actually can't write on it. So I wanted the headers that I put on those papers to be reflected somewhere else in the journal as well. So then to make my future log, I know that I would be doing about 2 months per page. So just the calendar at the top of the page and the dates underneath. So you can see I am dividing them out separately. And then I am using this Midori stamp, and I have a love-hate relationship with this thing. So as you can see, the second one I did on my test page was perfect. You see all the lines and it perfectly stamps. But then I go and I do my second one and it doesn't really show up fully on the paper. And it's fine. I think that's part of the beauty of the stamps. Like that fourth one for April is pristine compared to January and February. But it's okay. We're rolling with it. I actually kind of love the kind of stampy fading in and out nature of it. And I also really like the stamp because you can actually use markers over top of it. So I use some mild liners with it. And I am kicking myself here because I did not have the foresight to use pink for the second month so that February could be pink, and it ended up yellow, but that's okay. And then I just went and wrote the dates in for all of it. And I have to say, this actually was less painful than writing out your, like, the title of the month and every single number. I actually enjoyed this more than any other future log setup that I have ever done. And then all I did was created Dutch doors for those middle months as well, just because I knew that I wanted to easily flip between the pages and make it a little bit like cohesive. So the entire year is kind of like a mini book. And is it just me, or does anyone else get really scared when making Dutch doors? I'm always really worried that I'm going to accidentally cut too deep into the spine of the book, and then next thing I know, I have unraveled the entire thing. It's like just this really stupid anxiety that I have, but every single time I just hold my breath, especially when I'm whipping out that craft knife to do it. But after I had all of my dates in and my stamps in and the Dutch doors cut, I just went back in with a gold Sharpie just to line the pages of the book so that there's a bit of an outline on each one, kind of like it's like a gold leaf, like in a novel sometimes where you have sprayed edges. I just kind of recreated that there. So after that, I have my serious things page, and essentially it is just a cover page for part of my yearly setup. It's a really nice tongue-in-cheek way of me separating some of my pages for the rest of my year. And serious things, as you'll see, includes serious things that I need at the beginning of the year, and then the second section that I create a little bit later on is titled The Fun Stuff, and it's the fun things that I'm doing. So I essentially used a full page of that Chiogami paper and used all the tape and glue to try and get it down onto that page, because I really wanted to make sure that it was stuck and as a full page in my book. And then after that, I used that same paper where I had used for my future log as the serious things to just offset a little bit near the top as well, to really just glue it in and indicate that we were entering into the section where we are going to focus on the serious things. One of my first things here is actually my goals page. So I like to approach goals from a yearly standpoint, but as well as a 3 month, 6 months, 9 months, and kind of look at the year in quarters, and then also include my big scary goals. So my 3 and 6 month goals may actually just be small habit changes, like stop eating out so much, or stop taking Uber everywhere you can take public transit, but things that are really small and are easy for me to accomplish fairly quickly, and it's reasonable for me to do in 3 months. My yearly goals, I find that it's kind of twofold for me. So I like to decide what my goals for the whole year is going to be, but then I also like to divide that into smaller goals that I chase every quarter or every few months. So to explain it simply, while my yearly goal might be that I want to do X 5 times a week, I may start with doing that thing once or twice in Q1 as a 3 month goal, 3 times a week in Q2, 4 times in Q3, and so on, instead of just trying in January to start doing this thing 5 times a week when I may never have been able to achieve it before. So I like to gradually use my monthly or quarterly goals to help me achieve my big yearly goal as well. My big scary goals are for those things that are, well, big and scary. So these are things that I might not be looking to achieve in the near future, but are something that I would like to eventually do. So for example, one of mine is completing a marathon length open water swim. And that is definitely not something that I will be doing in 2024. I have not swum pretty consistently in a while, and I also am currently getting over a shoulder injury, but it is still something that I would like to chase and do. But I know that things that I do every day or every year are helping me get towards that goal, and I like having it in my journal because I can keep it in sight and be reminded that this is something that I'm working towards. My next part is my finance goals, and this is something that I just like to keep in my journal just to check in on every once in a while. I actually do use Notion to have this a little bit more fleshed out, but it's good just to have in the journal as well. So my first page is just 3 months, 6 month, 1 year, 5 year, and lifetime goals. And my lifetime goal is just to retire a rich bitch. Like, that's it. I just want to be rich and be comfortable in my old age. And then beside that, I have a simple spread for things I'm saving towards, but that are either long-term or recurring. So for example, every year I fund my TFSA and my emergency fund with at least 10K for the year. It is a minimum that I know I will hit each year, and it's just super simple for me to kind of look and achieve. And then on the other side, I also have things like a little $6,000 goal to hopefully adopt 2 Bengal cats in the next few years. And that's just a number that I know that I will need to kind of achieve to adopt them comfortably, and provide all my money towards them as well, and give them the life that I think that they deserve. But it's not something that I'm really wrapped up in thinking about filling this year potentially, but it is good for me to keep in mind if there is extra cash flow somewhere, or I change my mind and decide to get the cats a little bit sooner. I know that I can pivot and start funding that goal as soon as possible. My next page is actually my sinking funds page. So essentially it's just a whole bunch of different boxes where I have different amounts that I save or achieve towards these goals. I've discovered that I really need to gamify my savings if I am going to save money. It's not easy enough for me to just be like, oh, I want to save $100 towards that. I need something very tangible that I could see to check off and know my progress towards a goal. So I like creating these little boxes for my sinking funds. And essentially, I just focus on things that I'll be doing or getting in the upcoming year that I need to put money towards. So first there you see horseback riding lessons. It's because I signed up for horseback lessons that start in June, and I would like to continue doing horseback lessons after my first session. So I will need $1,200 for my next set of lessons. I also like to keep a sinking fund for the summer as well as Christmas. So the summer one is essentially so that I have the money needed to pay for anything that comes up, like last minute concerts, trips, etc. It's how I bought my Beyonce ticket the day before she came in this year. But also I like to keep my Christmas fund so I have money for gifts at the end of the year. My 2024 subs page is what I use to save for subscriptions that I have in 2024 that I most likely will continue having in 2025. So I've had an Amazon Prime subscription for years. I know it's about $125 for the yearly subscription. Same thing with Netflix, Kindle, my Everend subscription. So what I do is I put the money that I need for those subscriptions or services into a high yield savings account every year, so that at the end of the year I have enough money to cover those services for the following year. So this page essentially is setting up to save for my 2025 subscriptions, and I leave extra room there for anything that I may add on. So for example, this year I added Epidemic Sound on to my page because I signed up for an Epidemic Sound subscription. But essentially it's a way for me to make sure that I can still maintain the subscriptions that I love. If anything were to come up financially, I know that is paid for. It's getting interest in this high yield savings account, and I also get cash back on it. After that, I have one of my favorite spreads to set up my 1 year to 1K. So I mentioned earlier, but I am someone who needs to kind of like gamify savings. And while I don't do that for things like my TFSA or my emergency fund, I do enjoy doing this 1 year to 1K challenge every year. So essentially what it is there are 52 boxes there, and each of them have a dollar amount written in them ranging from $4 to $55. And at the end of each week, I just select a box to fill out and deposit that money into a savings account. And at the end of the year, I either roll that $1,000 into savings or buy myself something fun with it. But it's a really easy way to just save $1,000 over the course of a year without really thinking about it. So then we get into my fun stuff page. So this is, like I mentioned before, all the fun things that I want to track or keep note of in my journal for the year. So my first spread here is actually my things to check out spread. And I kept this really simple, just putting washi in the corners. So a combination of a gold washi tape as well as that grid washi tape that I have. And then I used the stamps to very carefully put out things to check out across the top. I don't know if you could see it there, but I actually had to write out the word on the sheet so that I could make sure that I did not misspell things too as I used the stamps backwards there. And then I divided it into 3 different categories. So the 3 categories that I really am focusing on is media, so TV, movies, podcasts. If someone suggests that I watch something, I will add it to this list if it sounds interesting, just so I can turn back to it and check things off when I have a bit of a slump. I have things like experiences, so I have wanted to go on a helicopter tour of Toronto for a while, so that goes on the list as well. And then my really big section that I always fill up every year, sometimes with a lot of food, I've noticed. There's a lot of restaurants that I want to go check out, or coffee shops, stores even as well, goes under the places section. And it's also a really easy way for me to, especially with restaurants, to get out of a rut. So if someone's like, hey, let's go do something, instead of going to that restaurant that I always go to, I can say, how about we go to this restaurant, and it might actually be something on my list. So after that, I have my book pages. I actually left that page on the left-hand side blank because I'm actively toying with the idea of creating a reading journal for 2024 as well. So in previous journals, I'd have a small spread at the end of the month with all the books I read and my ratings for them and a little bit of a review, but I'm feeling the urge to do a little bit more this year and really kind of build out a reading journal and track all the different book club books that I read and everything else. So 100 books a year is my usual goal. I'm probably not going to hit that in 2023, to be honest, which I'm really fine with. And since I am leaning towards that reading journal, I opted to keep this really simple with just the spread there and then a rating sheet at the bottom, and this is actually going in one of my pockets at the front, the call pile rating system that I'm using. And I'm just going to color code the different stars. I haven't figured out what scheme I want to use yet, but I'm going to color code the books based on the rating so that I can see if I'm reading a lot of like 3-star books or 5-star books over the course of the year. My next page is also pretty simple, so I really just used some washi tape to decorate the corners, keep it really simple, and then I just wrote quotes and affirmations that I liked or to remember on the top of the page. And essentially, if I see a quote or an affirmation somewhere that really stands out to me, I can just track it on that page. I already do my Monday quotes, which I love my Monday coffee quotes on Instagram if you follow me there. But also just if I'm reading something or someone says something that really stands out, I will include it there. After that, I have my future me page, and you know, I am surprised it took me so long to forget to cover the stamp pad, put my hand in it, and then put it on the page. It's killing me, but I knew it was going to happen eventually. And that was my biggest fear with the ink. But you know what? We did it. It's fine. Embracing the imperfectionism. But my future me problems page is actually something that I saw Jashi Corin do in her spread, and I loved it. So essentially, it's just a page where you can include all those things that you're going to do in the future. So, but are not really like a task that you have to do immediately. So organizing my pantry has been on my list for a while. I need to sort through my cloud storage just to make it a little bit better and more functional. But that's not necessarily like a today problem or something that I need to do right now. Future me can deal with that. After that, I have my 2024 in pictures for January through June. So this is also one of my favorite sets of spreads to do in my journal. I really enjoy looking back at all the pictures that stood out to me every single year and just each month and remembering what the situation was. It's really fun, and this year I've decided to do it a little bit differently than before. So previously I would literally just put the picture in, but this year I decided to build out the spread a little bit more and really document the moments that have me feeling my greatest, which is what I wrote on that paper, that piece of like handcrafted paper that I had there that was so thick and so hard to stick in. I was worried it was going to fall off. But really, as I write all the titles, I left room underneath it for me to write a little note about what's actually happening in the pictures. So while I know looking back what it is nice to kind of capture what it is. And I'm doing 2 pictures per month on the page. I've had some months where both pictures came from the end of the month, or the instance is coming from like something from the first half of the month or the second half of the month or what have you. But it's a really nice thing for me to reflect back on every single year. So that is my setup for 2024, my bullet journal. Please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video. It is something that I actually want to continue doing and really just challenge myself and hold myself accountable by posting a video every month of my setup, of just being more creative and leaning into the different ways that I can decorate this book, both with paper, tape, stickers, maybe drawing, we'll see, but really just challenging myself to do more with my bullet journal this year. And also let me know if you have set up your bullet journal and posted it. Please let me know, because I would love to see what you are doing and how you are getting creative in yours as well. That being said, I'm Adele Ashley. I post videos on books, beauty, vlogs, and I guess bullet journals now as well. Till next time, have a great day.